Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
I'm nobody. I came because I have no choice. I came to save my home and the people that I love.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Chris. How are you today, Chris?
You know, life is good. The spring semester is basically over. Only got one more paper to finish up, so I'm good. I'm good. I'm just waiting for Monday to turn in that paper and just feel that relief as the semester comes to a close. But yeah, I'm good. I'm really excited to talk to you about some DC stuff. Hopefully, we have a lot of good stuff to talk about as Superman and Lois is waiting some interesting news.
Yes, it is. We'll kind of dive into that after our Arrowverse update here. We'll talk about episodes 5 through 8 of Superman and Lois season 3, and then we'll also just talk about the prospects of it getting renewed, which we talked about like before the season started. I think, right? One of the first
hmm
times I had you on, we were I was a little bit more confident at that point, but then things have really made me be less confident as we go. So we'll talk about that. Right now, what I want to just dive into real quick is a Arrowverse update. So maybe like 20 minutes of where I'm currently at, because it's been a bit since I've updated, the loyal listeners here. I am further than what I'm going to say right now, but I'm going to save that for next week, because by next week I want to get through the next event, Elseworlds. So right now I am going to cap discussion off at the end of Flash season 4, Arrow season 6, Supergirl season 3, Legends season 3, and that's where we're going to stop discussion. So Flash season 4, they defeat at the end of that. They defeat the Thinker, and then they actually get introduced to Nora, who had made a few appearances throughout season 4. And then on the Legends, they defeated Damian Dark again, and Grodd, and the demon Malice. And then they that was it for them, pretty much. And then we had over on Supergirl, Wynn left, Mon-El left, Brainy is staying behind, and Alex is going to be in charge of the DEO now, while Jean Jones moves on. And the end of Arrow, Oliver's in jail, whatever. Season 6 was not great.
Yeah, yeah, you are correct. You are absolutely correct. In fact, I think this is a high mark for the Arrowverse outside of Arrow, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Legends really picked up. I thought Supergirl season 3 was a lot of fun, and Rain was an excellent villain. And I really, really, really liked season 4 of The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very emotional season, and I was hooked. I know a lot of people say that's when it started to dip a little bit, but I think season 4 of The Flash was strong.
I would agree with you. So like if we're just going to talk about strength of the like shows at that point, I do think like Supergirl for me was at its peak in season 2 out of the ones I've seen so far. Season 3 did get very great when the Legion got introduced. I think is when that season started to really pick up for me over in Supergirl. Arrow, while I like the actor because he's been in Band of Brothers, 12 Monkeys, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, and Fringe, another one of my favorite shows of all time. I can't even tell you his name right now. I just thought of it. What was his name?
Diaz.
Yeah, Diaz is not great. Like the actor does him well, but the character for me is not as threatening as they're trying to make him seem. I don't know. Like when you had the peak of like Prometheus, right? And
Hmm.
Slade and all of the great villains they've had in the show, those two specifically, like trying to match them, and they try to do it with Michael Emerson's character at first in the first half of the season, where you think he's going to be the big bad, and then it's like, oh, Diaz took him out and actually killed his son, and then now Diaz is the main villain. And then they had the whole Laurel Lance being evil again, and I mean that stuff. It's been
Hmm.
meandering. Arrow has been meandering since season 5, I think.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I like parts of Arrow season 6, but Diaz kind of hammed it up to a point where there were some episodes where he was just unhinged. Whereas when you think about a Slade, he was kind of grounded as a character. There was a really built up reason for his actions and the Mirakuru and his connection with Oliver. So when you have Diaz, I don't think they really wrote a compelling tie-in to Oliver's story. They just said, "Oh, this guy's awful," and he went nuts. Um, I don't love Arrow season 6. Don't love it.
Yeah, and from where I'm at in season 7, I don't love season 7 either. We'll talk about that another time. But
Yeah,
yeah, season 6 was you know, is that when we also had the Diggle John fight too?
yeah, I didn't
Like
love
the
that.
Diggle Oliver disagreements and
Well, and then Diggle has the drug problem, and
yeah.
he's oh the it's one of those things where I think Arrow did every character dirty at one point, and that was the season they did Diggle dirty.
Yeah.
And Diggle's my favorite character in Arrow, so I had a problem with that.
Yeah, Diggle for me is probably my favorite in that show as well. Um yeah, and then it's just been a weird weird season that was. I was kind of like
Hmm.
just watching it like, all right, let's just get it done with at this point because I was kind of over it. Um and then and I think what for me Arrow kind of gets almost too much in the weeds of recently is the overarching villain. Um like all these shows have that, but like if I'm comparing it to Flash, where Flash has some episodes that are self-contained while they're also trying to take on a big villain. Um, just like a quick case of the week thing
Hmm.
that can be fun, that can explore some characters or whatever. It's like always so down and dark on Arrow now, which is not what it always was. Like when I'm thinking back to seasons 1 and 2, there was moments of levity that really worked.
Hmm.
Everyone doesn't trust each other now in Arrow, and it's been just absolutely frustrating in that regard.
Yeah, I think season 6 brought out the worst in Oliver too, which doesn't help. I think Oliver needs to be likable for that show to be likable, and that Oliver always was dark and brooding, but he wasn't quite Batman level brooding. And when he really stopped caring about anything but being Mr. Grunt guy, that's when the show started to become harder to watch.
I was thinking this the other day. I feel like anytime Oliver shows up in another show, he's written better than he is in Arrow. So like when he shows up in the
Hmm.
Flash, he's more
Agree.
likable. When he shows up in the crossovers, he's more likable, except for when he's stealing Barry's wedding. But
That
but it's like
was more Felicity.
it was both of them, I guess. Um, but it's that kind of thing where I look at it sometimes and I'm like, he's so much more likable in that crossover, and then they go back into Arrow and he's like absolutely pissed off and mean again. I'm like, what is going on here? A little bit of whiplash. If you're watching all
Yeah,
these together.
yeah, I really enjoy the Legends writing, and I enjoy the Flash writing. The biggest problem for Arrow is a lot of times you're like, oh my God, the other shows could take care of this villain in an episode. And it's like that's why it doesn't feel so menacing because, you used to watch an episode of The Flash with a thinker, and then you got just some dude in a suit.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Oliver. Like,
Not even in
I
a
know you don't
suit.
have
He's wearing a
superpowers.
jacket and he's just bossing around other
Yeah,
people. I mean,
yeah. It's just I the stakes were so high for Arrow, but the believability got pretty low. I mean, there were some things that Oliver Queen did in the earlier seasons that were more impressive than what he had to deal with in season 6.
yeah,
I
and they keep bringing up the fact that he used to kill people, and I'm like, I get it, but we have to move past that now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that story was just there for like to make him feel guilty over nothing at that point because he had become a hero. He had become something else, as they said
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
monologue
Well,
every
I
week.
feel like for Arrow they have I don't know, 5 plots of the police coming after him and wanting him in jail. How many times has he narrowly escaped getting prosecuted? And then he does at the end of season 6. And it's like,
Look,
okay.
everybody wants Batman Begins, but after Batman Begins, you need to start working with the police. That's the thing. It's
Exactly,
like
exactly.
everybody loves that initial year one phase, but in season 6 of the show, maybe the Hood or the Vigilante or the Arrow, whatever they decide to call him that week, should get going with the cops.
And they've done that so many times where like once Lance got promoted, he was working with them. And then
Hmm.
when he was mayor, he had some say, and then they just kind of uh
Well, the second
yeah.
Diaz comes around, they're all corrupt somehow.
Yeah,
Every single
yeah.
one of them.
It's
All of a
Gotham.
sudden, out of the
Yeah.
blue. Yeah. It just, the writing in Arrow is very convenient. The problem is whatever they need it to be, and they don't really have reasons for what they do. I think every Arrowverse show needs to learn a little bit from Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow makes no sense half the time, and you don't care. Arrow makes no sense, and it bugs you the whole episode. That's the difference in the writing.
One complaint I will give as we move away from Arrow, talking about Legends. Damien Dark again. I mean, the actor's fine. I like the actor. Why 2 seasons in a row did we have to deal with Damien Dark?
Personally, I think he was an affordable option for the CW's most affordable show. That's probably what it was. And he has great chemistry with the Legends cast. He really does.
Yeah, but it's like maybe take a season in between. I don't know. Like it was, I'm like, oh, season 3, it's pretty interesting. And then Damien Dark showed up again. I was like, ah, you got. Now,
Well, I mean,
thankfully, they've kind of focused on his daughter a bit more, which, you know,
yeah, and
yeah.
Nora's going to become a bigger part of the show as it goes on. So, I mean, it's really eventually going to be Nora becoming a character on Legends rather than Damien Dark being always on Legends.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fine if he shows up occasionally, but he was like part of like the main. Like I thought when they he showed up again in season 3. I thought maybe he would just be like a couple episodes, but then he started being like the whole thing over again, as like the main bad guy. So that was a little disappointing for me. Um, and then I guess if we're gonna update my rankings on season 3 list of Legends characters, I'm going to leave off Martin Stein and Jax now that they have left the show. So we're going to go Ray is still number 1. Nate is still
good.
number 2. Um, I think I'm going to go with, and I'm leaving out Rip because he's not part of the Legends anymore. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Amaya. Actually, before Amaya, I'm gonna go Wally for season 3. Let's put that in there. I'm gonna put Wally
What
West.
does Sarah Lance have to do to get up on your
Wally West.
rankings?
Then I'm gonna go Amaya and Zari next, and then I will go, I guess, Sarah, Mick, and Constantine at the bottom.
If Sarah's below Mick, you really, yeah, that would be where I would just leave. So for me, it's always Sarah number one, Ray number two. But I really like Zari, and I think season three was a lot better because Zari came aboard.
Mhm.
She's pretty awesome as a character, and I think she's like the most relatable and like honestly written character. She's great.
And I'm my favorite episode of the season is still that phone home episode.
Okay,
With the ET Ray based episode.
it's a great
Really
episode.
loved
It's hard to
that.
beat.
And I'm gonna go
Hmm.
with um my other favorites of that season is I did like Bebo, and I liked anytime Bebo showed up, so that was good.
And Bebo loves you.
Yes, Bebo does love me. I was thinking about putting that in the opening theme. um and I really liked the episode with Elvis. What was that? Amazing Grace?
Oh, that was a fantastic episode
Yeah.
with the guitar, and yeah, that was great.
Also, guest starring John Noble when Ray has to go back to when Lord of the Rings was being filmed and get John Noble to voice the character, or like voice Malice, because he voices Malice in the show, and then trying to fool Nora with what they were having Malice say. That was pretty cool.
Question for you. Was this the season that had Sir Raymond of the Palms?
I don't know.
Where he had, okay, so I think it might have been the next season. There's an episode where Ray uses his suit, and it looks like he's got a lightsaber coming out of his hands, and as like a sword, and he's in like King Arthur
Oh
times.
yeah. That was
Yeah,
I forget.
that's one of my favorite episodes of the series.
I forget when that was. That may have been season 2.
That might have been season
It
two.
was. It was
That's one
season
of
2. Yeah.
that's one of my favorite episodes of the series. I always get the
Yeah.
chronology mixed up because I've seen these so long ago that I will just go back and watch some of my favorite episodes. So I always am like, where are they? Where are
Yeah,
they?
it's episode 12 of season 2 called Camelot and 3000.
Okay, that one was really good.
Yeah, that was a cool one. But you know why you're confused too? Is because Damien Dark is in both seasons. See, so if it
Yeah, it's
wasn't,
probably yeah.
if he
Yeah, your
wasn't,
complaint is becoming more valid.
if he wasn't, it would have been a little easier. And then Supergirl, I don't have much to say for that one. Like I said, I like the Legion showing up. Conflicted about Wynn leaving. But if the actor left because he wanted to do other things, that's fine. Whatever. I like that they brought Brainy in to kind of be a fill-in for that, I guess, as having their smart guy. So that's pretty cool.
And to be fair, I like Brainy more than I like Win anyway.
Okay.
I think he fits on the show better, and I really like the actor who does Brainy. I think he brings a lot to the show in terms of like personality and like kind of the way he delivers his lines. He's pretty cool.
And for Flash season 4, really dug it. I think though, if I'm still ranking seasons, I think it goes season 1, season 2, season 3, then season 4. I know some people would probably flip 4 and 3 because some people didn't like Savitar being drawn on for so long, but I put them up there as like 4 of the best seasons of what I've just watched. So I really dig the Flash the most still at this point.
Hmm.
And I mean, look, that's still what it comes down to right now when I'm watching these shows. If I want something on as just background, like when I'm watching some of these shows like Arrow, Supergirl, I'll find myself more on my phone at times, right? Especially Arrow right now. And then when I get to, but what I usually try to do is like save the Flash and Legends for like when I'm getting ready to unwind for the evening. and I'll watch like 2 or 3 of those, and my
Mhm.
focus will be almost exclusively on the screen, and I'm usually drawn in more by those 2 shows. Part of it
We're in agreement there.
part of me makes me think it's because I am a history major, so there's, you know, time travel is a favorite study of mine too. So Flash time traveling a lot, Legends time traveling a lot, Legends going to historical places, Flash having a Flash museum, you know, that kind of stuff is really cool. Um, so those 2 shows draw me in more than, and I think the villains are better on Flash than they are on Arrow or Supergirl. So Flash, of
I
course,
agree with
has
that.
more villains to work with. He's got a really great rogues gallery, though, too.
Yeah, I think The Flash is the best show throughout the Arrowverse. I think Legends is the most fun show in the Arrowverse, and I think Arrow and Supergirl are relatively inconsistent shows that when they're great, but you can kind of skip a lot of that and get just kind of watch the highlights of the shows, and you kind of got it.
Yeah, and you know, I thought the Thinker was a great villain. Um, I thought, you know, Elongated Man was a great addition to the show, and I really liked having Harry again, and you know, just Tom Cavanaugh at all is always
Yeah, Harry's
always
my
a fun.
favorite Wells.
Yeah.
Harry's my favorite Wells. He's one of my favorite Flash characters. Period. I love Harry Wells. I love that he throws things when he gets
Hmm.
angry. Because I do the same thing. Our me and Harry Wells, other than maybe the genius that he has, are very similar characters. I I relate to that guy. Um, I really enjoyed Flash Time in season 4,
Yes, yes, we want to talk
especially
about
when
that.
they got that episode where they had the nuclear bomb and it's already gone off and he's freezing time, and he brings everybody into flash time with him to figure it out. That episode is one that I will go back to uh, once or twice a year. I'll watch that episode because it feels like a Flash comic, dude.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah, it
just an
does.
issue of it feels like an issue of the Flash.
Uh, that is one thing I will say about the Flash as well. Is it is the most comic booky of the shows. Like Legends, like you said, is more fun at times, right? But to me, that doesn't
Hmm.
feel like a comic book show. Legends feels more like just like a cool time travel show. Um, you know, there's times where they have more comic book feel in Legends, but other times it feels like a sci-fi time travel show. So like getting a comic book fix right now with the Flash as I'm watching it is awesome. And I will say, like, before I started watching the Flash, I really liked Superman and Lois, and I still do. We're going to talk about that later. But with the cancer plotline that's going on in that right now, it's sucked some of the joy out of being a comic book show. It's more of a family drama. So getting my comic book fix through the Flash right now is how I'm doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Flash goes into a lot of that comic book science stuff. And when Barry is allowed to be smart, the Flash is a great show. When he's dumb for the sake of the plot, it drives me nuts. That's my biggest complaint with the Flash. Other than that, I really love the show. And there are episodes that are technically not great superhero television episodes that I enjoy the daylights out of because you're just running through Central City with the Flash, man. It's in the later seasons when they give Grant Gustin a little more time off, and then you'll have those episodes that are just filler with the B characters only. That I get a little frustrated with the Flash, especially when the writing gets a little cheesier and a little bit less nuanced.
Hmm.
They they lost some good writers. I think season 6 was incredibly bad in my opinion. I'm don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I stayed invested, but season 6 of the Flash is when I'm just like, what are we even doing here? And this past couple years of Flash, there have been episodes where I'll watch the show with my mom and we'll just pause it and make fun of the writing because
Hmm.
it's there are times where it's like, what are we doing here? But the Flash is when the Flash is good, I get so excited because it feels like I'm reading an issue of the Flash. It's so comic booky. It is, and I get excited when I'm like, I know what they're doing. I know where they're going. It's so cool. I was like, oh, I've read this. I know what they're doing. That's so fun.
Yeah, uh so far, I think when you're talking about those episodes where he might not appear as much, I feel like for me those will just kind of fly by because I'm just binging it right now.
Hmm.
So I do wonder, like when I get to season 6, and I'm curious, like that'll be in probably 2 weeks. We'll probably have an update on me being done season 6 or in season 6, and I'll be able to share my thoughts and see like how it was for me binging because you were caught up by then.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I was watching week to week, and I'm like, by season 4, I was watching week to week,
okay, okay.
and I believe it was season 4 I was watching week to week, and season 6, I swear there were weeks where like, oh, it's not on. I wasn't that disappointed.
Yeah,
It was like a nice little break from it.
so we'll see how I feel about that in a couple weeks. But
And I love the show. I do. I love the show fully.
for the next update, it's going to be through Elseworlds, which is
Mhm.
the 9th episode of season 5 of Flash, the 9th episode of season 4 of Supergirl, and the 9th episode of season 7 of Arrow. So I don't know much about it except for um, just little things that I know that like just from seeing pictures of stuff online before. So it'll be interesting to see how that this one. I've really been unspoiled on most of these crossovers. It's funny though. I was just watching an episode of season 5 of The Flash um, before the crossover, and it was one that I just had seen my parents watching, I guess. So I had
Mm.
seen a lot of, and that's stuff that I already known. Then like it had Nora in it, and so when she's showing up in season 4, I'm like, I already know who that is. Like I already know that this happens. Um, but I was just watching an episode yesterday, and it was just one that I was like, oh, I know this whole exact episode, and like it was the one where with like the softball stuff and spin and all that stuff. But then there was also an episode of season 1 that I remember watching as well. So when I was watching season 1, I came across it was the Christmas episode of season 1, and I remember seeing that when I just came downstairs when I was living with my parents and they were watching it on Netflix, and I was like that was all the only things I knew about Flash was pretty much if somebody talked about it on Twitter or if I happened to be in the room when my parents were watching it. So my dad has given up on the show. My mom has powered through. She's caught up. She's on season 9. So I'll
So,
be able to talk to
how's
her
she
about that
liking
too.
it? How's she liking it?
I haven't talked to her about this
Okay.
season, but she's just one of those people that will see out the show. So I don't know. She does say,
Okay.
they both agreed it kind of goes off the rails at some point, but
It goes off the rails.
yeah.
It literally goes off the rails.
But I will
It
say,
does.
so far, from what I've seen of season 5, I'm digging that too. So so far I'm enjoying a lot of what I've seen.
I didn't get frustrated until season 6.
Okay.
I really didn't. Now, season 5, there are some episodes where you can see the hints of it coming, but it's pretty good.
So next time we'll talk Elseworlds. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna pivot, and this will be a separate episode, but we're gonna pivot to Superman and Lois, season 3, episodes 5 through 8.